What happens when a woman's dream life turns into her worst nightmare?
Tyler Perry's Diary of a Mad Black Woman from 2005 forces us to question love, loyalty, and the price of betrayal.
Helen's journey from heartbreak to healing isn't just a story about marriage, it's about reclaiming your identity.
This film shows that forgiveness doesn't excuse the past, but it does unlock the future.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation of $5 or more via our website at axiom.app, Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber.
We are going to spoil this film if you haven't seen it.
Yes, and you've had since 2005 to see it. That's like 20 years. But if you haven't seen it, don't worry, because we're going to give you enough of a rundown that you can know what this film was about. But let's start with kind of a background of what, of the movie. So the director was Darren Grant, but the story was by Tyler Perry. And of course, it's based on the one of the Tyler Perry plays. And it was adapted from a Diary of a Mad Black Woman, right? So it's the same name. And what I found interesting, because I was like, oh, Tyler Perry didn't direct this. This was, I think, his first film. So in his first foray into making movies, he did actually hire a director. The next thing is, the next movie he had, I believe, was Medea's Family Reunion, which was the very next year in 2006. And he co-directed that one. And then by the time he made Daddy's Little Girls in 2007, he directed that one on his own.
Yeah, the studio probably made him get a director, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how they do.
Yeah, but I mean, I was like, okay, he must have been a quick study, on his directorial skills. And I don't know how much of it, how much he already knew and understood from his play performances were, able to translate. But I think, hey, to be able to kind of look over somebody's shoulder probably in that first one, then the second one you co-directed, and by your third movie you're directing yourself. I mean,
But some people, they just direct their first movie. They just start making the movies too.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about people who go to film school. I'm just saying just people jump in. So but the gatekeepers won't allow it sometimes, right? And that's why we get stuff like this. Like, yeah, we want everything you have. We just don't want you to be in control of it because we don't trust you with the money. It's kind of what it comes down to sometimes.
And what I'll say is, because we did recently cover Daddy's Little Girls, and we'll link that in the description. That movie didn't look bad, as far as the director is concerned. The movie didn't look bad. It looked well directed. Like, I wasn't like, the director sucks, So I think that it was a good effort. And, my issues with Tyler Perry films are usually more closely related to the writing, the jumping of the shark of things that seem unrealistic, as opposed to, that, his sound wasn't right, except maybe in Acrimony when the green screen was he was doing too much with the green screens. And it looked like it was made in, 4 or 5 days, whatever record time he said he made that film in. But other than that, I think he's been pretty competent, at directing, making these things happen. And I don't know how hard it is to be a director, but I think that if, that his experience from the stage plays translated really well.
But then when you have money to hire people, right? Hey, I hire a cinematographer, right? You know what I'm saying? And I hired this lighting people. You have people over the different departments to make sure that things go the way they're supposed to go. And then as a leader, you have to be able to take in their input when they tell you, something should go a certain way.
So let's talk about the cast. Okay, so the cast, the main character is Kimberly Elise, is the actress portraying her as Helen, right? And then Charles, her husband, is played by Steve Harris. Now, y'all know Steve Harris. You've seen him around before, but he also is the brother of Wood Harris. Wood Harris, yes, Avon Barksdale in The Wire.
Avon Barksdale.
Yeah, Avon Barksdale. So, and then, of course, we have Tyler Perry playing multiple characters, Medea, Joe, and Brian. And if you remember, you got Medea, then Medea's brother, who's Joe. So he's in heavy makeup for both of these characters. And then Brian is the one who is basically just Tyler Perry without all the makeup and extras. And Brian is Joe's son. Okay.
Joe's son.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So then we have Shamar Moore playing Orlando. And we also have other people in the film, but we also see Cicely Tyson as well in this film.
Want us to cover your favorite movie ASAP? A one-time contribution of just $50 or more to Axiom Amnesia gets you a deep dive on demand, a 30-minute discussion on any film you choose.
It's easy. Step 1, send $50 via our website, axiom.app, where you can pay via card, Apple Pay, or you can pay directly via Cash App at $Axiom Amnesia. See the links below. Step 2, tell us your movie, email, the name you want to appear on screen, and what kind of deep dive you want. General, a specific character, a particular aspect of the film, etc. Step 3, watch your deep dive on demand with your name listed as executive producer.
Lock in your deep dive on demand today and hurry. Spots are limited.
This offer is not valid for filmmakers or distributors. Subject to availability and terms apply. So let us now talk about what happens in the movie and, have our little discussions along the way. So in the beginning, the film opens and we find out through this voiceover that Helen is doing, saying that, they've been married for 18 years and he's an attorney. And they're at this ceremony where he is getting an award. And, it's narrated with Dear Diary, blah, blah, blah.
Color purple.
The color purple, and also gives you the feel of like Waiting to Exhale too, the way that that the characters are narrating what you're seeing on the screen.
You would think that we've got it all together, but looks can be deceiving.
Now, I've always been taught that is like an element of lazy writing when you have this narrator coming in, because you should be able to depict those things on screen. But, that we've seen great movies. I mean, The Color Purple was amazing, and it did this. And I think
because
maybe
it was based on the book,
where in the novel, this was how it was presented, and I think they didn't want to depart from that. But she says, as part of her narration, looks can be deceiving. Some days are good, and I think he loves me. He talking about her husband, Charles, the attorney. But some days I think he doesn't care. And with every basically with every win in every case, he's changed. So the more successful he became, the more he changed. And so they're at the event and everything, and he stands up, he says and does all the right things publicly, right? He's like, I could not have done this without my wonderful wife, Helen, right? And all these people get to look at Helen, and she's like, oh, thank you. And, and so they are holding up appearances. But then after the event, they drive back to their mansion, and they're sitting out in front of the mansion. And she's like, well, what do you say? I'll run you a bath or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I got something to do at the office.
I left something at the office. I have to go.
So she immediately changes, right? Because she was hopeful before this, like, we're going to spend some time together. But her attitude changes in this moment.
Who is she?
When you get a job and pay one of these bills.
Of course, pointing to the fact that he's having an affair with some woman at the office, right? And this reminds me a lot, and you mentioned it too when we were watching it, of Waiting to Exhale with Bernadine.
Yeah.
And how John was cheating with the chick at his job and stuff. So she says to him, tell me what I need to do and I'll do it.
Tell me what I need to do and I will do it.
And then he said, you really gonna do it?
I really want to know what you need to do.
Now, we saw this same kind of line with Sheila and Mike in the Why Did I Get Married play. Yeah. He's like, oh, you really gonna do it? That kind of thing. So I felt a little repetition here with that.
Yeah, but so what I'm starting to see too is that the plays serve as a basis for all of the other movies and stuff too. So he's like taking from the different plays and putting it into the movies. And I guess you probably noticed this at the time, but it's been 20 years, right? So
and it's like recycling a little bit, right? You just take a little piece from here, take a little piece from there. And, then this was a great line. I want to hear that again, right? And I don't know how I feel about that, because part of it, I think, is just like if you know a person well enough, then they repeat themselves a lot, right? They're going to tell the same stories, or, it's going to sound similar. And so I don't know how much of that is a limitation of just us as humans when we tell stories and what we think is funny and what we're going to refer to, or just him going, that was a good line and let me just say it and everything, you know.
But I think you would make a concerted effort. It's hard. So like, I listen to rap, or used to listen to rap a lot, right? And one of the things I listen for, like if you could listen to an album and then notice how little someone uses the same rhymes, right? Mm-hmm. some people you listen to, they're going to always rhyme the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. But I think with telling stories, you can make a concerted effort not to use the same sort of things. But also, you want to expand these things. Like comedians, they go around tell the same jokes, right, until they have their special or their show, right? So he's going around doing these plays, and not everybody saw the plays. So then when you get it on the big screen, you're like, oh, I'm going to use my greatest hits in here. Mm-hmm. Maybe the stuff you've seen got the biggest laughs and stuff when you were going around doing plays. So, it's kind of both, right? Being able to weigh it. And then just the way with recorded media, how we're able to go back and then immediately connect the two things, right?
Yeah.
If we watch them back to back, then that's one thing. But if you hadn't seen something for 3 years, you probably forgot about it.
And I also feel like you can do a lot more with the live performance in these plays and it not be like solidified forever because it's not film. Then, like if you do a performance or something isn't landing right, you could tweak, even though it's probably not nice to your actors. You could probably tweak some things in the show even as the show goes on. And only the people who saw the failure are the people that were there that night, right? Yeah. Versus in a film, this is it. Is this forever? So, yeah. So Charles is like, so you'll do anything I say? And she's like, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. And then he like, get the hell out of my car.
Get the hell out of my car.
And then he just like drives off.
Foolishness.
And then I'm just like, okay, so here we go again with like the worst men ever in life. Like you got Mike, you think that nobody could have been worse than Mike, but then here you see Charles, who clearly seems equally as bad at this point, just as we're opening the film.
Yeah, but so are we talking in chronological order or not, right?
Of the films?
Yeah, no, who came first, Mike or this guy,
I guess.
Right.
This was the first play. So this guy was before Mike, I think, an earlier play than Why Did I Get Married? Or yeah. So later she realizes it's their anniversary, and
she realizes.
Well, yes, she's like, oh, it's our anniversary.
Oh.
And the narration again, it just seems like sloppy writing, and this should have really been done with the dialogue, but whatever. So she's Dear Diary, and okay, it's their anniversary. So she shows up at his office with lunch, and he's exiting the office with a woman holding a small child.
Hi, I'm Brenda Marcos.
And Helen you didn't think anything was up with this, but of course, obviously it's supposed to mean something.
Right, it's supposed to mean something. It's looking at everything with a suspicious eye. Mm-hmm. It's how people just go through their lives now, right? Like we were watching something, this person ain't your friend and this and that, right? It's okay, a guy who's an attorney at work, when you show up, is walking with a woman. Mm-hmm. Who, okay.
But yeah, like, I mean, maybe this is a client, like, okay, so there are reasons how it could fit in. So, but okay, so then I'm thinking when she goes up to her husband and after the woman dismisses herself, well, okay, I think I better be going. She leaves with her young child, and Helen is left there alone with Charles, and Helen is like, is that her? You tell me, Charles, is that her?
Don't play games with me. Tell me, Charles, is that her?
And part of me, I think, is what I think is good about this, whether it was intentional or not, is to make it seem like she's just irrational. You know what I mean? So, like you said,
well, what was so after crazy? All that stuff that happened, though.
What was so crazy about seeing a woman at his, coming out of his office with him if he sees clients, right?
But you can't show us the previous scene about how he was treating her and kicking her out the car and stuff, and then show us this. So it probably wanted us to suspect her as being somebody,
suspicious,
right? But so what I think of, how you got, is it the red pill, the manosphere, whatever they are, right? They always talk about how they hate how Tyler Perry depicts the men and stuff. Mm-hmm. But they should like it because he is doing what they say that those men should be able to do.
Yeah, be like, get in there. You don't make no money.
Yeah,
shut your butt up.
Exactly.
You getting fat.
Right. I bring any woman I want where I want to bring her. That should just be like, oh yeah, that's an alpha male. But you mad at the depiction that you always describe that claim the way your ideal world is?
Oh my gosh. And then they like to come and show up in these comments and think that they're about to get traction. No, sir. So when she's like leaves the office or whatever, because he's just like, thank you or whatever for the lunch. So he just dismisses. He ain't even answering her. He like, whatever. And so she gets back home. There's a U-Haul moving truck out front. And Shamar Moore is playing the mover, Orlando, and he is moving her stuff out of the mansion. And she's like, hey, wait, hold up. What's going on? Why are you moving my stuff? This is my house.
What are you doing?
Work.
Where are you going with my things?
And he's like, oh, I was hired by so-and-so to come over here and move this stuff. Now, first of all, we just have to give honor to the whackness of Shamar Moore's braided wig in this, bruh.
This was the start of the bad wigs.
Yeah.
But like I say, hey, you have the leader, whoever's the director, whoever, and maybe some producers, whoever they hire. And they...
Let me tell you, it would have been worthwhile. It wouldn't have taken no time for Shamar Moore's hair, a month, for it to at least be long enough in most areas to just do braids.
Okay.
And they could have braided it and then just weaved it in the way you could do cornrows.
Exactly, yeah. So, or just pick an actor who has hair. So the wig makers...
he had to have Shamar Moore.
You have hierarchy, but the wig makers are Daisy Kirbion and Monty Schutz. Those are people who are credited on this film.
So we have to say this. So then Helen goes inside and she's like, what is going on here? Why you got my stuff? And then the maid says, well, Charles asked me to pack all your stuff this morning. And she's like, what? But then she sees other things being brought in and it's these beautiful gowns and all of this stuff. So she's like, oh, because it is their anniversary. So she's like, he's moving my old things out and then my new stuff, this is a new wardrobe. Oh, how nice. Girl, is you crazy?
And then she put on a dress.
And she put on a dress and she's waiting for him, drinking and waiting for him to come home. Finally, comes in and he's like, I got something to tell you.
I need to tell you something.
And she's all talking about the clothes. Oh, it's so wonderful. And it's a closet and look at what she's dressed in. And then the woman from the office shows up in their house and she's like, is she wearing a dress that I picked out?
Is she wearing the dress that I just picked out?
Yeah.
So then Charles says to Helen that our marriage has run its course.
It's over.
What?
And the new woman, who, by the way, in description, she's light-skinned. She's a Latina, okay? A light-skinned Latina. And so this is also, I feel like, purposely in stark contrast to who the beautiful Kimberly Elise is, right? So it's also saying something else, very much like Waiting to Exhale, yeah. Right? Where you have this man who has made it to the heights of his career, and now a black woman is not good enough for him. So same kind of thing. And didn't you tell me, I don't know if you mentioned it before, but you said Tyler Perry said that you're always going to see The Color Purple.
Oh, yeah. So once we cover the play, then we can talk. But yeah, in the commentary on the play, that's what he said. In everything he does. And he did the commentary after all of this stuff. So yeah, he said you're always going to see The Color Purple in his stuff.
And so then as Helen and her husband are going back and forth, you got this side hoe over here making comments. Tell me you're not one of those weak sisters.
Please tell me you're not one of those weak begging sisters.
Brenda.
Because obviously Helen is like, nah, I'm not leaving my house. What do you mean?
What am I supposed to do without you?
Look, you're a bright girl. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, but Charles, like, I can't keep treating her like this. That's hilarious.
I can't keep treating her like this.
He say, and my two boys, they need me. I need to be home with my two boys.
My children, not seeing their daddy every night. I'm staying here and there.
Bruh. So you've been married to this woman and you got two kids with the side hoe. And now you like, I need to push you on out. And then I'm thinking, okay, all right, I'm gonna just keep it 100. If you are, because we do have self-professed women who are side chicks who comment on different things.
They just label it something different.
They label it as something different. But let me just say this. If you are the side chick and the man want to move you in his house, don't you think you deserve at least your own house? Like, you want to be moving in up behind the wife like that? Like, there's just certain things. I mean,
if you don't build your own house, you're moving in somebody else's house.
Well, yes, but it's like you're moving. You are literally cosplaying the wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'd be different. At least it wouldn't really be different in my mind. But
what's that Fatal Attraction or what's the movie?
Well, the hand that rocks the cradle. Like you literally want to live her life, which is just a sad state of affairs.
She don't want to live her life.
Yes, she did. Because she was cool with moving into the same place. I'm in my closet. Her closet is now your closet. Like, there's just something to me. Like, wouldn't you be like, oh, now it's time to pick out my own house. Now it's time to spend up your money. Like, do you think, I don't know. Why Did I Get Married? Did Trina move into?
Probably.
His house, maybe.
That's why Sheila had to get kicked out.
Same writer.
You gotta do it step by step. So
yes. But anyway, so she's talking mess and bumping her gums like, don't tell me you one of those weak sisters and whatever. Are you serious? Are you even addressing me, ho? Like, I don't know. I was a little mad for Helen, but Helen is like, no, I'm not leaving. And it was very crazy. And he says to her, be a lady and leave quietly. That's what he tell Helen. Helen starts screaming and she refuses to leave. He literally drags Helen and physically throws her outside.
He put out like Fred Flintstone. Was it Fred or Barney? Like the Flintstones.
Oh
That's
my gosh. Doing. And so Orlando is still outside. I'm like, bro, you ain't had nowhere to go. But he's still outside. It's dark now with the U-Haul. He sees her there. Again, the worst braided wig ever. And he's like, well, come on, I got your stuff. So she's riding around in this truck with him. And they've been riding around for a long time because she don't have nowhere to go. And she tells the story kind of how, I have nobody. Charles alienated me from my family. And he made me put my mama in a home. Y'all, when I heard this, I was like, he made you put your mama in a home.
Yeah, it's so when I think of this, I think of Don't Drive Your Mama Away or whatever. That song. Is it Shirley Caesar?
Yeah, Shirley Caesar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Y'all can go listen to that.
So then Helen's misdirected anger at Orlando. Orlando's like, hey, where you want me to drop you? Because I can't just keep riding. I got other stuff to do. And so then she gets mad at him and she's just like, well, pull over. And she leaves him on the side of the road and she screeches off with the U-Haul. And she
did the same thing that Charles done to her.
And she finally drives the U-Haul over to Medea's house. And we find out that Helen is Medea's granddaughter. So Medea is bringing the comedy as usual or whatever. Helen sleeps on Medea's couch for that night. And then Joe is being real creepy, right? Because Joe comes in, sees this young lady who's pretty, sleeping on the couch and everything. And he's like making sexual innuendos at her. And I'm like, but ain't this family? So later it's revealed that somehow Helen is related to Medea through Medea's ex-husband or something, side of the family. But this is still her brother. So I don't know. It could be complicated. Anyhow, when Helen wakes up, she sees Medea feeding this woman, giving her a plate or whatever. And, the woman is clearly living in the streets or whatever because Medea makes reference to you're going to need this on the streets. Come to find out that this is Deborah, who is Brian's wife. So this is Brian, the character that's played by regular looking Tyler Perry, right? And his wife is on drugs. She knows Helen and they were kids together and friends together, right? Back in the day. So Medea is a person who has this heart for people and helping them in spite of their circumstance. Even if she talk crazy about you, she's still not going to leave you out there. And so Medea and Helen talk about, what happened to Deborah because, how do you wind up like that?
Did Tyler Perry ever talk about where Medea comes from? Like,
I don't remember. Somebody in the comments might know.
Yeah, y'all just let us know.
Of course, I feel like I saw an interview a long time ago where he's just like, oh, she's this, Yeah,
I just think after watching, there's a documentary about him that we seen that's very good. And I think it just sounds like somebody who he would have come across who's like that, or maybe multiple people.
Yeah, I think that this is a composite character made up of all of these different best qualities, right? Of people who care and
right, because he was getting abused and stuff, and he would go over to other people's house, relatives and friends.
He
and
had
stuff
periods of homelessness and stuff like that too.
And I'm pretty sure people took him in, especially probably when he went to Atlanta as well, right? So yeah, and he was young at the time when this.
So Helen is talking about her own predicament now with Charles and, what happened with them. And Helen says, hey, look, I signed a prenup. I have no right to his money. And, basically she's been a housewife for the past 15 years of their marriage. And Medea is like, oh, no, he owe you some money. And
is that how prenups work? Everything we earn is mine.
Yeah, it does. Obviously that's not how it works. So she might have been under a misimpression of that, but, it's whatever the paperwork says as far as what you come to the marriage with. And then it may stipulate other things, but you can't predict the future. So you don't know what you're going to earn or not earn during the marriage. But somebody who's an attorney and expert at, at this type of law can tell us more. But I don't think it's like, oh, you're not entitled to nothing because you signed a prenup. Okay, maybe nothing that he came to the marriage with, but see, he was broke when now y'all got together.
Yeah.
You supported him through him becoming successful.
Waiting to exhale.
So Medea insists though that Charles does owe her money, and I like that this was pointed out. Because far too many times, especially from people like Red Pill people, the contributions of the stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home mom are ignored. The whole reason that the household is running is because there is a person who is there to make sure that everything that needs to be done in the home is actually done. And that is a job. And it's a thankless job that's like 24/7. And you're not getting paid directly for it. And it's really easy for people to devalue that. But you see what happens time and time again when the person who's helping running things isn't there to run them anymore. You see how stuff runs amok. So I like that this was actually highlighted, although it was kind of like preaching to the choir because, Tyler Perry's audience is going to be made up mostly of women who already know this to begin with. So, but the funny thing is, so Medea starts, she gets on a, calculator ad machine or whatever. And here's the comedy because she's like, oh, this is how much he owe you. How many,
You really say ad machine?
Yes, because that's, well, at first I thought she had an adding machine, but it was just a regular calculator.
I know, it would have been better if it was.
Oh my gosh, that would have been hilarious. But yeah, so, she's adding or whatever on the machine. On the calculator or whatever. And then Helen is like, and he hit me too. She said, oh, he hit you. And then she adds some more dollars. And then at the end, it's like, he owe you 19 billion or however many, just some exorbitant amount of money. So Medea is like, we got to go get this straight. We going to Charles' house. And then she's like, but we can't even get past the gate, because Charles got big money. He got a 24/7 somebody at the gate. Okay, you can't even get up by his house. Medea busts through that gate at full speed, and they're like, what did he say? Code red when she busts through that gate. So then when we get in the house, we see the new woman is already set up inside. We saw her clothes getting brought in and everything, but everything is just there. Yeah. But she's there to look for something in her closet. All your stuff is gone, so I'm a little confused.
Yeah, it was all in the U-Haul.
Was it a secret compartment in there?
They didn't finish moving it out because she got in the way, right? And then they had to have this confrontation. If she would have just waited, they would have carried all her stuff out. But she had to get dropped off like the Flintstones.
Yes. So then Medea's going through the closet too because she up there with her, and she sees wire hangers, and she's like, "Oh no, no wire hangers. Is this a wire hanger?
A wire hanger."
Okay, for if you don't know, you don't know if you're too young. So Mommy Dearest is this movie that is based on the life of Joan Crawford, who was an old school actress, right? And
wait, that was based on a true story?
Yes. Joan Crawford, the life of Joan, this was for real.
Bro, I've been laughing at that movie so hard all my gosh. Life.
When I tell you, me and my sister, when we were growing up, because, this was a movie that used to run on repeat in the 80s on HBO for whatever reason. Yeah. So we were little
But that's
kids.
why this joke is in this movie.
Yes, because funny. Tyler Perry is of the age where he was seeing this is part of his memories and, all of that. So, so I'm laughing because in this movie, basically what happens in the movie, just to give you some context, so you got to go search it out. In Mommy Dearest, there's a scene where Mommy Dearest's adopted daughter, Christina, she's given her all these beautiful dresses and everything. And she's forced her to call her, not Mommy, Mom, nothing like that. Mommy Dearest is what she has to call her. So she's just like, she's upset. She comes in the room at night and she's just like, what is going on in here? And, stuff is messed up and, everything is dirty to her, but everything was fine. And so she goes in a closet and she sees wire hangers and she's like, no wire hangers.
No more wire hangers.
Because they ruin the clothes. So that's the other part. This is when you got money, you don't put your stuff on no wire hangers because they're ruining the clothes because, wire hangers they put indentions in the clothes. So that's the whole thing about the wire hangers. And let me tell you, me and my sister used to enact this scene because in the wire hanger scene, right after that, she's just like, and look at this, I give you all of these things and look at this bathroom. And she said, we're going to scrub this bathroom, Christina. And, it's the most crazy dramatic thing you ever seen. And she started beating Christina with the comic can and stuff while she's spreading. Because we were kids watching it. But this was a true story. This is what Christina Crawford, the daughter of Joan Crawford, said that Joan Crawford was doing. Like, it's crazy. It's just crazy mess. But anyway, so that's the context of this joke that happens in this movie. And so I was like, okay, well played. And so then Madea encourages Helen to rip up all the clothes in the closet. It's going to make you feel better. Just head up, And so they start going through that. So Helen goes down to Charles's office and she goes through his stuff and she sees some money and she started taking stacks of cash up out his desk. And then she sees a picture of the two of them and she started reminiscing and then they look up. Next thing you know, Charles is standing there. You steal it from me? You steal it from me? I'm like, man, why are you right here? But I guess Charles was nearby because it looked like they had been playing tennis. So they was just on, probably in their gated community tennis. I don't know. Their tennis court. So they came running when they found that they had bust through the house. So meanwhile, the floozy comes in and sees Madea in the closet. And she's like, this is my house and all of this and that and whatever. And Madea is like, you the hoe. You ain't got no power or no deed to the house. Which I think is a really good point being made. Now, true enough, they're trying to get divorced and stuff. So she couldn't get married that fast. I think the intention was to marry her. So he was about to turn the hoe into the housewife. And she had put her time in, had a couple kids by him, waited. So she's waiting on her check to come. But I did think this was an important point too, as far as power and whatever, because I hear it spun so many times. Oh, I never want to be a wife because, the wives get cheated on and you get nothing out of it. And I only get the best of the man. But at the end of the day, if something happened, you want to be special friend. If something happened, do you want to be in a position where you have like zero legal rights in any way? Especially when a man is the one with all the money, if that's the case, just things to think about. So Helen tries to leave, but Charles prevents Helen from leaving. And then Madea busts in holding her gun. And Madea tells him he gonna reap what he sows for what he's done to her. And Helen tells basically the side hoe that it's only a matter of time before he does the same thing to you. And this is what I don't understand is that, a leopard don't change his spots. What a person would do to one person, you're not exempt from.
Yeah, but what we do find out is that Helen took advantage and she was cool in the end.
Well.
So.
Meanwhile, Madea starts a chainsaw and she start being like, oh, you don't want to divide this property? Well, I'm going to divide it. And so a chainsaw and she starts sawing all the furniture in half or whatever. This is all the comedy. And then Madea and Helen end up in jail behind it. And when they go to try to get out, go up before the judge is none other than Maybelline, Judge Maybelline from, the TV show Judges back in the day. And that was a nice little cameo for her to be able to have. Yeah. So Brian... again, this is Tyler Perry playing.
How do they go to jail though? This is still her house.
Well,
her husband,
Suspend
her
your disbelief.
belongings. But then she got stuff for like, traffic tickets and stuff too. Like, all right,
suspend your disbelief,
suspended license, and
but Helen is in there too. So like, okay, if you could make the case for Medea, but not for Helen, but so Brian, who is the Tyler Perry is playing him, he's there to defend Medea and Helen both. And then, Helen gets bail, but Medea gets house arrest because, like you said, Medea been in trouble, got tickets, apparently been in front of this judge, Maybelline, a bunch of times before. And so then when they're getting ready to come out of court, why Tyler Perry just snuck in a Whitney Houston, Bobby Brown joke? Why you do that? And they're like, up next, Bobby Brown. And then Maybelline is like, is this a repeat offender day? And then you hear a voice supposed to be Whitney Houston talk about, I love you, Bobby, and if you know from back in the day where when Bobby Brown was going to court a bunch of times and Whitney was just around and she was supporting her man and, he was getting locked up, going to court. It was just a hot mess. And it really was very sad because, it showed kind of the underbelly of addiction, even if you got a whole bunch of money, just craziness was going on. But I still, y'all know I love Whitney and I just was like, But anyway, so ironic that, Whitney was also in Waiting to Exhale. And a lot of the stuff from this movie seems to parallel Waiting to Exhale. But then you did her like that. You did her dirty with that little joke. That wasn't right. So there's a family cookout and all the family.
Hold up. You was just laughing at Mommy Dearest. Come on.
But hey, look, I'm not emotionally attached to Joan Crawford in the way that I am to Whitney Houston. So there is a family get together. It's a cookout or whatever.
Okay, I need to know. They had a cookout and they had a fish fry and they was frying fish outside.
Yeah, this is Atlanta.
Is that what black people do? Because I don't know. I may be black, but I'm also from Louisiana.
You're from Louisiana, which is not like any other black.
So I don't know if everybody is doing that because it just seems like.
I never was at a cookout where the first time I ever saw anybody cooking stuff that wasn't barbecue outside was with your family.
And I'm just like, maybe it's a Tyler Perry thing. He was like, put in a fish fry.
Well, okay, so, Tyler Perry is from
New Orleans.
Yeah. So, this
But I noticed that because you never see it in anything.
No, anything outside is just going to be barbecue.
Yeah, and any movie, any media or whatever, nobody's ever... Let me tell you, people have you put the pot on a burner outside and make what you would call probably gravy, I guess, yeah. Smothered food and sauce and stuff. That's what.
Let me tell y'all.
Make gumbo outside.
If you've never seen it done before, because I had never seen it done before. I got an inkling of it before I saw it in person. But then when I saw it in person a few different times and ways with his family, I was like, this legit must have been how they cooked back in slavery days or outside or, you talking about the Oregon Trail. And I was like, dang, and the fact that you could do this today, see, they going to know how to survive when the revolution comes.
A little bit.
The rest of folk, I don't know, because we going to be like, well, ain't no burner. What we going to do?
Barbecue.
Look, you got to know how to set a fire. How you going to do it without the charcoal? See, we in other parts we think we fancy because we only use charcoal and we don't use like the propane tank burners. When you like, I barbecues with charcoal. And then you think you real fancy when you put your little wood chips on top of it. But what I'm coming to tell you is if you can't cook with wood, you might want to learn how to do that. Anyway, we try to give y'all little tidbits.
Ain't nobody cooking outside with wood.
Well, listen, we never know what's going to wind up needing to get done.
Yeah, but we're talking about
But yeah, okay, so back to
cooking
this.
Outside.
So to be clear, his family was not cooking outside with wood. But I was like, okay, so what y'all gonna do with it? In my mind, because I'm watching it be done. Like, it's an education, so you got to understand. You just sit back and watch, because I never saw anything like that. I was like, okay, so what they gonna do with the propane tank? Because when I see a propane tank, I'm like, oh, because the way that we view a propane tank, if it's anything related to cooking, is like it ain't gonna have no flavor. It ain't gonna have no flavor, right? Because the people who do, like, I remember I worked at this job and they were like, we're doing cookouts every Friday during the summer, and they had a propane tank. I was like, this ain't no real. They were talking about barbecue. This ain't no barbecue. I need smoky flavor, and you didn't get that grilling, chicken breasts and portobello mushrooms on a propane tank. So when I saw the propane tank, I was like, what they finna do to that? Oh, and then one time your aunt was like, oh, I'm gonna make some coubillon. And she had she put the onions and stuff and started mixing it around. And then when they put that tomato sauce and fish up in there, and I was like, oh, that smells so good. Listen, if you never had the experience, it's amazing. And let me also tell you that Southwest Louisiana food is better than New Orleans. I'm gonna put it on the map there. And I feel that I'm objective because I'm not from Louisiana. Although I was born in the Gulf Coast.
And you've been to New Orleans and ate food.
And I've been to New Orleans and eaten the food there. And I've been, I've eaten the food at both commercial places and at people's homes in Southwest Louisiana. And I'm going to tell y'all, the food is better there. But, I'll let you all argue in the comments. So back to this, they're having this party.
Get together. Oh, the cookout where we want to invite everybody. Yeah.
Yes. So Brian and his 2 kids are there, and his daughter, because see, we talked about this before with Medea's destination wedding and the fact that the cast of Brian's children did change, right? And
the mama changed too.
The mama too. And so Tiffany Evans, the singer, played his daughter back in this film. In the original film, I was like, I couldn't get Tiffany before. And then people was cracking up at the comments that we were talking about the fact that the actress's name, the character's name is Tiffany, and they kept Tiffany as the character's name, which was also the original actress Tiffany Evans' first name. Yeah. And now the new actress is called Tiffany in this movie. And
she was supposed to be 12 in this movie.
Yeah.
Which would have made her in her early 30s. In around 2025.
Well, and I just feel like anything related to Madea is just going to have the suspended reality because, at some points Madea is supposed to be like 90 something and some points she's supposed to be 60 something, like it's, but so that was the funny thing that we kind of confirmed because at this point, I didn't remember the fine details of this movie. I saw this movie when it first came out and I haven't watched it since. And so they talk about, Brian is there, he's talking about his wife, Deborah, how he still loves her. And he tells Helen that Deborah took it really hard when she left. So I guess left meant like you left to go be with Charles or whatever. And then, Helen and y'all's friendship isn't what it used to be or whatever. And so Helen asked Brian to handle her divorce from Charles. And he says yes. And so Helen talks about, she's like, I thought if I just did all I could, God would bless my marriage. Okay, again, this reminds me a lot of the speech that Sheila gives at the end of the first Why Did I Get Married movie, where she's just like, I thought that if this and that, and, and it reminds me a lot of the same thing. And I wonder, is this something that Tyler Perry saw or heard, or a woman or somebody he knew told him, and it just was so impressionable upon him that he just needed to repeat it multiple times with different characters. Because I've personally never heard a woman say this in the face of a failed marriage, but hey. So Brian says, talks about the mother of his kids, Deborah or whatever. She's a junkie, but he still loves her, And so then next thing we know, we see Bad Braid Wig Orlando. And he shows up at the party, and Brian introduces him to him.
Did he show up in the U-Haul?
I don't know. But Brian
Orlando owns the U-Haul. That's crazy.
He just go every day and rent it. That's like the poor man's moving company right there. He just rent it every day. And he go do the jobs he got to do. So Orlando is there, and Brian introduces Helen, but then it's obvious that they already knew each other. And then, Brian, Helen and Orlando start going at it, and he makes the statement, "You just another bitter black woman, bruh." First of all, you got a lot of nerve. I don't care what it is, but he tries to save it. And he's like, well, I called you bitter because every other man is going to have to pay for what he did to you. And then she dumps her drink on him. Now,
bro, it's only been about a day.
And I was just like, okay, so this is an issue with the writing because I feel like you're jamming in a lot of these cliches and stuff like that. And I felt like he wasn't being very nice to her, understanding what literally just happened to her, So Helen is at the party, and then there's the diary voiceover, and I felt really sad for her because she's basically looking at everybody being happy and partying, and she's like, basically, how do I find my happy? How do I get happy like them? Because I'm in here with all this happiness and I can't partake in it. So Charles, go to Charles' situation. Charles is at home laid up with his new boo. And in the middle of the night, he gets a call and he goes to meet somebody. And he says, the guy he meets is actually the same actor who played the bad guy in Daddy's Little Girls, the mama's new boyfriend or whatever. Who was the drug dealer?
Gary Anthony Sturgis.
And he was a drug dealer in here too, apparently, at some point. And he said, that he ran so much coke for Charles back in the day, blah, blah, blah. This is why you got all you got. So now we getting dirt on Charles. Charles wasn't always clean. He's an attorney. But Charles basically tells him, like, hey, I ain't got nothing to do with that. Because the guy confesses that he shot somebody. And so he's in trouble.
But why you got to be in illegal stuff?
Well, he got to sully him.
Like, okay, you're an attorney. How long till you became an attorney? And were you doing this illegal stuff, moving weight when you were in law school?
Yeah,
or
like when did this take place? Was it teenage
years?
Were you
16 moving big weight?
And if that's the case, like why would you even wind up going to law school and everything? Because you would have made so much money. But, who knows? Maybe that's how he paid for law school, because he didn't get a scholarship or something, and maybe this was how he paid his student loans back. We don't know.
That was just, that's in a movie or something, right?
What?
Some movie I watched that happened.
So Helen, so Charles, so this is the situation. So the guy is basically like, Charles is actually more street than we expect, right? And so is this guy, and the guy is basically threatening him, and he's like, hey, you gonna be my lawyer. And that's that. And so, Charles is like, I don't take, kindly to threat or whatever and all that. So next scene, we see Medea. She has paper. She tell Helen, you got to look for a job, baby girl. And Helen is like, well, I don't do anything. And I was just like, damn, okay. That could present a problem.
Of all of this you've done and, what we know, what she done for the husband and all this, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you still come to the conclusion that you don't do anything?
I just think it's very hard for people to identify what things they like and what things they do well, and how to parlay that into a skill set that they can market themselves with. I really think that's what it is. And it's funny because I had asked somebody some time ago, and I was just like, hey, well, what do you do? I don't do anything. And I'm like, but you definitely do things. Well, what do you like? Well, I don't know. And, it's just, I think sometimes people need help with that. Yeah. And in fact, it's kind of funny because I think that's like part of our little superpowers a little bit, because we always manage to know exactly what, somebody else should do. And then what's funny is a lot of times they don't take the advice, and then they come back years later talking about they're about to do exactly what we told them to do a decade ago, and feeling like it was their idea.
Yeah.
I always laugh at that a little bit, but I mean, at the end, I'm glad they found the way, but you didn't have to wait a decade for it if you had just listened at the time. But it's weird because the idea of just learning to listen is something that I developed as I got older, not when I was younger. So, you can't really fault the young ones for not listening. I didn't listen either. So then we find out Joe don't really want Helen staying there. He's like, you gonna be getting mail over here. I don't want you to stay here. And so Helen, we see, goes visit her mother in the home. Her mother is Cicely Tyson and whatever. And there's this bill at the home because, of course, Charles Trifling Butt is not paying her nursing home bill anymore. And so then, she is vulnerable. Helen is vulnerable with her mother. And she's like, Charles hurt me so bad. He was my everything. And her mother like snaps on her a little bit. And she like, God is your everything. You don't say no man is your everything, and all of that. And so the mother tells a story of how she was 39 when Helen was born, and how she never dreamed of having kids and stuff. Like, not that she didn't want them, but just that she never thought she would get to be a mother. And she tells her, she's like, I think I shielded you too much. Get out there, stand on your own 2 feet, and, stop thinking about what you lost and look forward to what there is to gain. And I do think that some of the words that Tyler Perry put in these characters' mouths are kind of inspirational, because I do think that there are people who just don't see their potential. And if you've been in an abusive situation like Helen was in, then that's the whole job of these evil folk, is to make you feel like you can't do anything. So Charles was definitely doing his job in that area. So we see Helen later. She's working as a server. Shamar comes in as her customer, and, he compliments her looks and da-da-da-da-da. Then we have a church scene. Tamala Mann is there. And Helen talks about still being angry, though, over her marriage. And I think, if you look at the Kohlberg stages of death, they always teach this in like psychology 101 type classes. I think that you do go through those phases, right? You're in denial and you all of those different. Yes, that's what I meant. Stages of death, stages of grief. You do go through all of those stages or many of those stages. And I think that this is the stage. She was in the anger stage, right? They talk about those other denial and bargaining and all that, but she was angry. And I think that this is a spot where so many people get caught up, is just being angry and never really being able to get over their anger to what's on the other side of that anger for them, even, right? For their own benefit. So I like that she was, even though she got totally done wrong, it wasn't just about being hurt. It was about, I'm angry that this happened to me. So it's 3 months later or whatever. She's still battling Charles in court, but things are getting better and whatever. And Orlando comes to pick her up after work because it's raining, and she's like really
in a U-Haul.
He is in a pickup, and she resists at first, but then she takes the ride, and he takes her to dinner. Of course, it's some jazz type club place or whatever. And he's like staring at her while she's eating. And you said that he ain't had that much money, so he could pay for her to eat at this nice place, but he wasn't gonna eat. He just was gonna stare at her eat.
Exactly.
But
wasn't it something that happened with a coffee in this film like that? And I was like, yeah, that's why he only got coffee.
Was it?
I don't know.
No. Oh no, I don't remember where that was from, but I know what you're talking about.
No, that's something extra where somebody only was talking about. Somebody asked to go out with some coffee.
Oh yeah, that was on a social media that I showed you.
To I think in this movie where somebody asked about coffee, to go get coffee, and they were only drinking a coffee.
Oh yeah,
and they were like, "Yeah, we don't want anything. I just want the just a coffee." I can't remember. I think it's this movie.
Is it? I don't know. That escapes me. So then during the course of their discussion with each other, he's like, the key is to be tough, not hard. So okay, this man got to come and tell you how to be feminine also. So a little bit of, but anyway.
Well, that's Tyler Perry's role with these movies too, right? He's teaching women.
So it's exposed, though, that not only has she had a bad breakup, he had a bad breakup, too, because she was like, oh, what about your women? He like, I don't have women.
Why women always ask that?
What about your women?
Yeah.
Because if a guy is pursuing you like that, then you just going to make the assumption that he pursues other women like that, and you just done got ensnared in his, whatevers. So... but he's making it straight like, hey, look, I don't pursue other women like this. I really saw something to you. And, that could go either way,
He saw it to be
that could be true or not.
Catch you on the rebound.
So then they have this montage. They have this montage where they get together and, like you see them starting to develop their relationship. Meanwhile, Brian is telling his wife, you got to help yourself because she's over at the house with the kids. And imagine how that is. That I think that was his wife, though.
Okay.
Because she's his ex-wife by the next movie we saw, right? So she's his wife and she's on drugs or whatever. But she's there at the house with the kids and he's taking care of these two kids. And he's like, look, you can't be coming with your, addict antics up in here with these kids. And so he like, she's like, well, help me. And he like, look, I done tried to help you. You got to want to help yourself, da, 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 da. And I, so we see that happen. And then there's this accusation that Deborah's singing is what led to drugs. And the daughter, played by Tiffany Evans, character named Tiffany, wants to sing. And Brian doesn't want her to sing in the choir and whatever because
she's going to turn her into a crackhead.
She's going to be a crackhead after that. And I'm just like, okay.
This is another movie
that's so
too.
Shallow.
Those are two movies. It's another movie where this guy, I don't know if it came after this, I think he's trying to help his wife, or the wife is trying to help the husband who was on drugs, and they remain married and stuff throughout that. And then there's this other one where it's, This Christmas, I think was it. That was probably later on. That was similar. where
I gotta refresh my
where
memory.
I think it was Chris Brown couldn't sing because
the mama didn't want him to sing because the daddy was singing and something had happened. You know, all kind of foolishness. But and I'm like, okay, Brian is a whole lawyer, and his logical skills of logical deduction are just that. But then what's realistic though is that when the situation is too close to you, you're not always gonna be rational. In fact, you might be irrational a lot. So that might be realistic. So anyway, Orlando and Helen are going out, and she's like, we went out every night for the last 4 months. Girl, you ain't gave him no rest, no break. And they are just loving. They're in that honeymoon phase.
Every night.
She's like, I keep waiting for him to change and be to this evil person. But basically, he hasn't been that, right? So Orlando then busts out and confesses that he's in love. I'm in love with you, Helen. And they still haven't done the do, right? And she's like, we didn't do it. We had intimacy. Ooh, okay. No. So this is for women who could be starved of intimacy. This is like, oh, just hold me moments, right? This is what they've been doing for the last 4 months.
Nah, bro.
So Helen,
she's torturing him.
Helen in court tells Charles to Helen in court says to Charles, just take everything. And this is, again, we heard this before. Sheila did the same thing in the Why Did I Get Married play that we just covered. By the way, the whole Why Did I Get Married playlist is linked in the description too, because, we got 16, 17, 20 videos. I don't even know anymore. A bunch of videos on this, on the franchise. So all she asked for is her attorney fees to be paid for and her mama's nursing home bill. Other than that, she like, I'm done with Charles. That's cool. So then the judge tells her, okay, you got 30 days or whatever. And then you could sign and then y'all are divorced. And whatever. Brian is salty because, Brian wants to take Charles for everything that he's worth. But Charles comes over to her in court and is just like, smart choice, Helen. So this also will remind you a lot of Waiting to Exhale in the moments between Bernadine and, I don't forgot her husband's name, but you know who he is. Bernadine in court, and he's just like, oh, John, yes, he's like, Bernie, you were just being greedy. And, so it's kind of like a lot of the similarities between those scenes.
Yeah.
Where there's, antagonistic behavior happening between the two. So then Orlando and Helen are kissing and he's like, well, do you love me? And I'm like, bro, he putting that pressure. So she's hesitant to say it because she's like, the last man who I said that to, ... And so then she goes to sleep and she wake up the next morning. So they being together, they're sleeping together. They're just not doing the do.
Bruh.
So she feeling
nice,
it. They spooning. She feeling it on your back, but you not doing the do. You just, hug. And I'm saying, okay, is this really realistic?
She probably releasing him.
Is this real? she releasing him. Y'all. Okay. But is this realistic, honestly? Like you laying there with...
It might be. She's just saying no.
I don't think he's trying to do it.
Okay.
I think that we're supposed to believe that y'all laying up in this bed together every night spooning and nothing is happening. Nobody's even trying to do anything.
Were you looking at the screen?
No.
In court, remember the one lady who was real popular before all the so-called influencers got on social media and stuff? Glow, yeah.
Yeah. Glozell,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it?
I don't know.
So she's, but she's been through so much and, whatever. So Orlando has basically, though, while they were asleep, put an engagement ring on her finger. So when she goes into the bathroom and she's getting herself ready for the day and she's looking and she see, oh, I have this ring on my finger. And she's like, what did you do? And he's just like, you've been through so much. And, I just want to give you the fairy tale. I want to give you everything you want. And then he says he's managing expectations. Listen, I might not be able to give you all that you used to, but I can love you past the pain. Yeah. Now, listen up, Tyler Perry. I don't think anybody can love somebody past the pain without them doing the work to get it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because it takes two to tango. He got to be willing, but she also got to be willing to do the work. Because she could have sat in that state of of love being right in front of her and not wanting to move forward. She could have sat in that state for a long time. But anyway, he gets on bended knee and asks her to marry him.
Yeah, so Why Did I Get Married? The play is from around 2003-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before this film comes out in 2005, right? But in the DVD version, because, they recorded it, there's the joke about where he explains that's how, I think it was Troy. He explained this scenario of how he asked.
Oh, no, it wasn't Troy. It was with the other
Cheri,
two characters. It was Cheri and Diana
about how
in the play.
Yeah, how he asked her.
That's how he
and
proposed.
Then Poppy made the joke about, he seen it in Why Did I Get Married? Right? Which
no, in Diary of a Mad Black Woman.
Yeah,
with
in Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Yeah, he's seen it in there with Shamar Moore done it.
Yeah.
But that was that line in the play before the movie, right? Because he probably took it from the other play and put it in this movie. And then we have this weird anachronism that happens, or this, what do you call it in the time travel movies? Where
a paradox?
Yeah, this weird paradox where now he got it from the movie, which really took it from the play that we're watching.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
So
that's rather brilliant.
After he gets on the knee and asks to marry him, Helen is just speechless. And he's like, well, is you going to say yes? And then she looks over at the TV and she sees that Charles has been shot. Because meanwhile, what happens is Charles is in court with his forced client, and the client is found guilty. And when he goes over to the with the bailiff or whoever the guard is that's taking him back to be, incarcerated until further notice, then he snatches the gun off of him and he winds up shooting Charles. So she sees this report where Charles has been shot and she's like, oh my goodness, I gotta go. And she just runs out. So the next thing we see them at the hospital, it's Brian, it's Helen, and it's the side hoe. And so the girlfriend, what?
Nothing.
The girlfriend, okay, let's call her the girlfriend. The girlfriend, they're asking like, hey, what do you want to happen if things don't go well in this surgery or whatever? The girlfriend is like, well, don't resuscitate him if things go bad. But Helen is like, if there's a chance, we gonna save him. And so then they kind of go at each other and fight a little bit in the hospital. And the bottom line is that because she's still the wife, because of this 30 days hadn't been up and they haven't signed, she's the one who gets to make the decision. The girlfriend is pissed off about this. And so
this is the biggest dilemma that they didn't spend any time on.
And so she's in the hospital, like being there with Charles at his bedside, taking care of him or whatever.
Should she do this as basically a broken up spouse who has decided that you divorced, basically?
Go to the comments, y'all. Should Helen have been there? Should Helen have said, well, you the new woman, you make the decision? Or should she have done what she did, which was to take on the role of the wife and say, yes, resuscitate him if things go badly, and to have been by his side, at least during this moment, these immediate moments, because of that 30 days, or just morally? Tell us what you think. Personally, should she have done it? I think that it was the right thing to do, even though it was probably a very hard thing to do. And she talks about this, right? Because she says that she wants to hate him and beat the hell out of him, but she feels a level of sympathy for him also. So when Charles wakes up, Helen is there. The girlfriend ain't nowhere to be found. And it's revealed that Charles is paralyzed. And so he comes home in an ambulance and whatever.
Why Did I Get Married? Part 2. Yeah.
And she battles with him, wanting him to suffer, right? She feels rage. And then this is, the reveal of the title, The Mad Black Woman. She is a mad black woman. And I was like, for real, Tyler Perry? So she's helping him. And, she's trying to help him go through some papers. He's sitting there in his wheelchair. She like, he says, you ain't good for nothing. Da-da-da. He got his butt on, bruh. You are paralyzed with your butt on your back.
Yeah, Danny Glover.
Oh, in
Mister,
yeah. Just, there's your color purple too.
Yeah.
And he's like, why are you here? And where are my kids? Get the hell out. Like, this is what he's telling her. And then, you know what?
He was going through those stages of grief too, though.
Yes, he was. But what I found is people who are just trifling and evil and horrible human beings, like, they gonna still be horrible. And if you think they finna be thankful and all that, you could hang that up. They just gonna be like they gonna be. Because even people who have been like some of the most wonderful people under that stress can become damn near intolerable. So, but yeah, it's hard because he was clowning before and you continuing to clown like, bruh. So she walks out. She act like she gonna walk out, and then she just walk over to him and she just smacked him. She specked fire up out that mouth. And so she said, the old Helen is gone, and you will not talk to me like that.
The old Helen ain't gone. The old Helen right there. If he was able to get up and smack her back, she wouldn't have done any of that stuff. She had not changed.
So it's because he couldn't do it back that
you took that. on his persona. You seen an old weak dude and then took advantage, even though you have the whole aspect of vengeance, right? That I'm not going to totally ignore, but she saw a defenseless dude.
So she says, I came to help you, but now I'm going to get even. So she just basically crashes out. She like, I gave you life even though you took it from me. And she gives all of these examples. She screams about how she wanted children, but she had multiple miscarriages because you had my hair falling out. You was running with all of these women and da-da-da-da. Okay, so then here's the other part that I think can be a hard pill to swallow and a hard thing to listen to, because we want to label somebody as like as a victim and continually a victim. And yes, let's talk about how the psychological effects of DV and all that go. But there is also the point before you're fully under the water with the DV where the red flags are there, and for whatever reason, whatever's in you as an individual, you ignore those things. And I think we've all been there, maybe not to the DV point, but where, we want to believe, and so we choose to believe, and then we find ourselves in worse trouble.
Just because you write something in a diary don't make it true, right? So it wasn't that, she feels sorry for the guy or whatever. All she wanted him to stay alive so that she can do what we saw her do, and that was torture this dude.
She did. She said, I'm going to let you sit here for a few days and think about what I've said.
That ain't what you do if you have any sympathy for somebody or something.
That was wrong, but yet made for a wonderful for a film.
Yeah.
It almost remind you a little bit of Misery. Yeah. If you know, Misery is an amazing film that I hope
that was mentioned,
someday.
Right?
Misery?
Yeah.
Was it?
I think Medea mentioned Misery.
Yes. And that in this scene because the scene where she in Misery where she hobbles him and she's talking to him, but Kathy Bates is such a good actor because she was just like, she's telling a story. She just is calm and she just gonna bust them ankles, But anyway, she literally though, Helen leaves him for a couple of days sitting and stewing in his own stuff, stinking in this wheelchair. And when she finally comes to get him, she takes him and then she like ejects him from the chair into this hot tub, but it's tub.
Yeah.
It's a bathtub because he's stinking and whatever now. And then she don't even help to upright him. Remember, he's paralyzed, so he can barely keep his face down, above water. At first he can do it, but then he just falls and his face falls into the water. But she's saying she continues her tirade. And
that was a good scene though, to show him where his nose is right above and is right above the water. That was
real good. That was real good. So she got him sitting at a table. So after that, she does save him from the water, but his face does go under and whatever. And he, is not completely, messed up from that.
Speaking of Misery, right? So it was like, how they try to do with Juice. This really turned into a horror film at this point where she was acting like this. It was like, what is going on here? Because that's how a lot of those sorts of horror movies go.
And it
doesn't matter the reason a person turned this way.
So-called analyses will always be like, such and such is really a horror film. Yeah. That's kind of the reference you're making, right?
Right. Yeah. They say Juice is really a horror film because he was bad. No, but that's how a lot of horror films do, where you get this turn and it doesn't matter the reason a person turned into this.
Well, they snap, right? That's really what happens is the person snaps. Something went too far, and then they they start just doing wild stuff. So
like The Shining, right? They were just cool. Something happened up in there, and then it was just over.
For those of you who don't know, you should visit axiom.app And you'll be able to look at all of the recent videos across all of our channels. And I'm putting that on the screen right now just so y'all can see it and see what it looks like. Because there are a ton of videos that are over there. And also, I think that there are at least about 100 exclusive videos that are available for our Patreon members and our YouTube members. So, you know, if you're interested in more of our content, as I've seen many of you binge watching, be sure to check those things out. So she got him sitting, she's eating a salad though, and she's got him sitting at the table with no food while she's eating, and he starts crying, and she's straight just torturing this man. And then she's laughing, telling him basically like, your whore took all the money and the kids. She cleaned out your bank account. So he really crying. And you know, she just tortures him, and then eventually she leaves, and we see her meeting up with Orlando. Come to find out, when she walked out after he had proposed, it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, she tortured Charles for 3 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. No family, no colleagues or nothing. Nobody came to see Charles after he got out the hospital?
No, because Charles was an evil, horrible human being.
Think of the most evil person we all know. Let's say his name all together right now. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you think people ain't gonna visit that person?
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
but he has a lot more power, right? There's reasons to want to be adjacent
with monies
to power.
And mansions and stuff, right?
You know, well, maybe
somebody gonna show up.
Nobody came for Charles. Charles ain't have
crazy.
No family. Charles didn't have no friends. Not even his coworkers. Everyone hated Charles. If you measure that by who came and checked on him, it was nobody. And so she tells Orlando, hey, I had a lot going on, you know, and I can't complicate it. So she's basically like, look, I'm done with you. Me and my husband is back home, and we back together, bruh.
That's what I'm saying. So like, this is what we talked about how marriage is looked upon on, and you know, this is still a church movie. Mm-hmm. We see it's like at least 2 church scenes, maybe a third at the end. So, right. So it's about the sanctity of marriage, right? That even though we're married, we basically broken up. It's not finalized yet. I still have a duty as a wife to be with this guy, even though she was torturing him. But then we noticed that she we'll get into, she kept that relationship going.
Yeah. And so, you know, he said he's trying to convince her, hey, you know, he tried to break you, but you made it. Why would you turn back? Why would you go back to him? Right. And I think that this question, aside from the fact that he's trying to convince her to be with him, I think this question is the question everybody has when a person goes back to their abuser, or when a person goes back to a situation that they knew was not good for them, but they get a new opportunity or whatever. Because a lot of times what'll separate folks from the situation is the other person. The abuser, the whoever decides, hey, I'm moving on to, you know, next and better. And so then that person is left butt out there. But then if they get the opportunity somehow to go back, like with this unfortunate turn of events for Charles, she's like, well, now I can, you know. And so
I don't like to try to break language.
I don't either. And then again, that's another repeat, because that's what Troy in the movie Why Did I Get Married says to Sheila, you know, but in a different way, because they're already together. He tried to break.
That in the Color Purple?
They weren't together. I don't know. Was it in The Color Purple? Y'all tell us in the comments.
But so the thing is, like, either she probably was broke, right? And if somebody is treating you bad and doing all this stuff, we like to attach just some purpose to that willy-nilly, right? Oh, if she treat his wife bad or treat women bad, it's because he wants to break her. No, he's just doing what he wants to do. Yeah.
Just evil.
Right? And it's not like, oh, if somebody do something, that's because they're jealous. No. That's not what it means.
And 9 times out of 10, I don't even think it's necessarily personal. It's personal to you because you don't want us getting victimized. But it's not personal to the person doing it, because they would do it to anybody, because this is just what
they don't care if you're broken or not.
They're not like, I want to break you. Now, there are some people with like malignant tendencies that would do that. But I think most of the people, there's just a general disregard for everybody except themselves, right? The ones who act like this.
And there are
most of them fall into that category.
Yeah, people who want to be pimps and stuff, like, yeah, I'm gonna break a chick down.
Yeah, but like most people are just, I want what I want, and if I get it, and some people get hurt in the process, that's not my problem. You know, that's just how the people who are, you know, that you are users and do that to
and
other
some people don't even know that they're doing something wrong.
Nope. You know, so but she's like, well, basically she's implying like, can they be friends? Girl, is you crazy? What you mean just be friends? And he's like, if you really love somebody, you can't just be their friend. And I'm like,
that's the worst line in the movie.
You know, so Helen just after she done broke it off with him, she just keeps dodging him because he ain't giving up. He calling and he trying to get with her. And
she's been a good wife.
Yeah. So she done went back to her husband. So Medea, though, in the process of kind of bringing it together for the audience, says, you know you're over something when you get the chance to retaliate against somebody who did you wrong and you don't take the chance.
Oh, that's where she brought up Misery, because she said she would have been like the lady in Misery.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. So but I was like, you're over it when you can retaliate. And yeah, you know, I think that I like the way this sounds, but I don't think this is true. And I'm going to tell you, I know that from personal experiences, times with, you know, where I could have done something and I didn't, but I still wasn't over it. You know what I'm saying? Where something else would happen and I still be re-triggered. And I ain't never had no Charles situation. Not like that anyway. But point being that in life, sometimes people do you dirty.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get over it. It's very hard to get over it, especially when you don't understand like how, you know, but sometimes in life, I think there are going to be things you can't understand. You know, it's a practice of mine to try to be like, well, put yourself in their shoes. And I truly, like, there's a couple things that I just don't understand and I don't think I ever will. One is like the do dirty thing, to just completely disregard other people for your purposes. I don't get that. And the other thing I don't get is like how somebody has a child and they're out in the world and, you know, you have children in the world and you just don't care. I don't get how you have zero care and concern for that. And there are people who are this way, men and women. And I just don't understand that. Like, I can't imagine that. And so, you know, and those are things I guess I just reconcile that I ain't going to ever be able to understand, you know?
Right.
So that's what happens. But then next thing we know, we get the church scene. Well, we're about to get the church scene. We find out that Deborah's daughter is singing now. She gonna sing in church, and Deborah done took herself to rehab and everything. So Charles says that he's sorry. He actually apologizes to Helen. Right. He's like, you know, I'm sorry. And then God showed me who he is and everything. So like, he's been humbled, essentially, is what he's saying.
So I know a lot of people won't accept it, right? Mm-hmm. And because, right, he lost everything, basically. He got tortured for at least 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then he
saw the face of God after all that.
Yeah.
Not after practically dying.
But it makes me question about like rehabilitation, punishment, discipline, right? So you might beat your kids, right? And then eventually they're going to figure out what they're doing is wrong, or really atone for whatever, apologize, force them to apologize for something, right? Or lock people up, send them to jail. And then that kind of makes them, where they get out, they ain't going to do that thing no more, which means that they are better, or rehabilitated. Or, you know, when you do the parole thing, you know, you trying to atone for, I'm doing better and you know what I'm saying? It's that exact same thing.
This is what you have to understand. Punishment is about behavior modification. It is not about the condition of the heart. Punishment is about, don't do this thing anymore. I don't care what you think. It's kind of like the parent who says, don't do this. Don't talk back. You could think what you want to think in your own head, but if you say it, then da-da-da.
Yeah, but does it work though? Can it? Because, hey, he was whatever way, he lost everything and was tortured, and now it's like, okay, now I see. Some people probably, I think, can legitimately.
My lived experience is that a leopard doesn't change its spots. And in most cases, my lived experience is that people are who they are. And they can modify their behavior for short periods of time to fit here or there, but the thing that motivates them is still basically the same.
Yeah, but what's wrong with, is the motivation wrong? Right. So, hey, y'all, I'm selling all this dope to my community because, and tearing it apart, making motherless children because of, addiction and stuff like that. And then I get locked up and stuff, lose everything. And then I'm like, and I have kids. And then, I was wrong about that. But the motivation was we broke. We're poor. Right.
What about people who have to have a thing done to them for them to understand how it might feel to do that to other people? So people who do folks wrong in one way, but then when it happens to them, they all of a sudden, everybody make sure you never do, know.
Well, that's what happened to Charles.
But you didn't care before that.
Well, now you care.
You
right?
know?
Possibly. That's what I'm saying. Like, we can't just say that they don't because people never change.
Well, and the human condition this is the bottom line to me. The human condition is 9 times out of 10, people really mainly only care about the things that are going to affect them.
Yeah.
And that's it. This is why we can see all the stuff that we see on the news about things going on in other places in the world, and we don't care. And don't sit up and act like you do care, because if you did, you wouldn't just be, choosing to be like, well, boots on the ground. Oh, well, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a disregard. And if we're honest with ourselves about that, maybe we would do better. But that's just the reality. And, we all on some level participate in that. But yeah. So Charles is apologizing and everything. But see, here's the other part. Is Charles apologizing, like you said, questioning his sincerity? Because now he realizes, I need somebody to help me. And you've been here and I know that you will help me. And so she just chooses to help him. She helps him rehabilitate, but she declines his advances because he is trying to like hug her and touch her, because he gets movement back, I think, on his right side or something. And you see him try to put his arm around her waist, and she's like declining his advances.
See, that's wrong too in the writing, or from the perspective of the character, because what if he doesn't get better where he can move and walk and all of that stuff? Does she just stay there forever?
So the question is, what is her intention from this point moving forward? And I feel like her intention was not to be his full wife.
Yeah, but it looks like the intention was to get him better. But if has a condition that doesn't progress positively per se, then why are you there?
Well, I think she's like, I'm going to give you as much as I can. In other words, I'm going to help you to this point, and then it's going to be like...
Yeah, but what if that point doesn't... Like, if he's just in the same state, I can't move or nothing, you have to do everything, what's the point?
The point is that you say,
what's the point?
Well, no, I got you.
Yeah.
I've done what I can, and now I'm going to pass you off to, luckily you had this insurance in place, and they could pay for your long-term care. I've done what I can. I've done what I feel is my moral obligation. I'm kind of speaking as Helen in this case, maybe best case Helen. And so now I accept your apology, but maybe there's too much water under the bridge, whatever. And I think that's where she was at this point, because declining the advances means something.
It made it too easy that, okay, I have nursed him back to health. Now I can leave. Right? It's just,
So in the process, Helen looks at this picture of Orlando or whatever. And so then we get this church scene. So in church.
Another church scene?
Yes, there's another church scene. So in church, Brian is there. The whole family is there. Helen is there with her husband, Charles. And, Tiffany Evans is singing in the church. And, Tiffany Evans can sing. And her voice was so mature for like a young girl. 12 years old. Yes. And so then they basically have altar call or whatever. And we talked about altar call. Some of y'all said in the comments of the last one, because I was like, altar call, at the end. And you was like, I don't know what church you went to, because altar call. And other people have all kind of different altar calls. It just depends, apparently.
Yeah.
Charles hobbles himself up to the altar because he done been saved. And, the song is at its crescendo, and everybody's like, so, everybody's feeling it extra. Helen's mama, Cicely Tyson, is like, yes, Lord. Everybody is like, yes, Lord. Basically this person who was spiritually dead has, become awakened and is now saved.
The dead has arisen.
Another Color Purple reference. If you know who said that, the dead has arisen in The Color Purple. If you know, you know. So this is all happening and everything. And just when you think it's too much, next thing you know, you get maybe God is trying to tell you something moment from The Color Purple, and Deborah busts in, and Deborah is clean. She ain't on the drugs no more. And she starts singing with her daughter, and everybody is singing up in the church. And so everybody is saved, and the family is reunited, and everybody's so happy, and it's wonderful. And then they go and they have their family dinner that looks like Soul Food, the movie. The food was looking good on the plate. If y'all know
mac and cheese, ooh,
y'all know we have really kind of taken on a health kick and started working out each day and doing all this other stuff and trying to eat clean, eat whole foods and stuff. So we ain't been consuming this soul food. And when I tell you that food was looking so good on that,
it was
on that TV, because we over here eating chicken and broccoli, But anyhow, and sweet potatoes. But anyhow, so. Then at the dinner, Helen decided to unfurl the divorce papers and hand it to Charles.
He ain't got no family. He at the table with her family. She's cold-blooded. He's at the table with her family, hands him you on your own now. They all start cheering and stuff.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't care nothing about this man.
She give him back the ring. She's like, I'm in love. She tells him she's in love. She kisses him on the head and leaves. And then my question, go to the comments, y'all. Does anybody feel sorry for Charles? Now, what I do think one more thing she could have done before she peaced out is she could have tried to contact Charles's family. Because, I mean, surely he had somebody who could have given him some extra support, because it still would be very, imagine how Charles gonna feel when Orlando and her hook back up, if that's what happens. And then they all at the table together. Charles is sitting there, Orlando and his new wife, you know what I mean? And y'all all, it'd be like Mike and Why Did I Get Married? Just the extra at the table. Bro, you need to return to your own family is what needs to happen. So her mama says to her, Cicely Tyson's character, she says, "Where you going?" And she said, I'm going to find my man. Okay, this one reminds me of Mahogany, Diana Ross, Billy D. Williams. If you know, you know. There's a point in the film where they had broken up and whatever, and Diana Ross is coming back to get her man, and she's in the audience because Billy D. Williams' character is supposed to be like, I don't know, a community activist or something like that. A community, what was Obama? He was a community organizer. That's what he is, and he's talking, I don't know, maybe he's trying to be an alder person, I don't remember, but some type of, politician or whatever. And so he's like, well, what would you like? And she starts yelling from the crowd, and she's like, I came to get my man back. If you know Mahogany, if you haven't seen Mahogany, if you young, like, this is one of the ones that you need to just, for your own black repertoire, you need to have seen this film.
Let us know if you want us to cover that one.
Yes. So anyway, that's Mahogany. That's the reference. She's going to get her man. Okay. Bruh. So she went to his job, which is a factory. And she go on the factory floor screaming his name, Orlando. You done bust up in the factory, safety regulations just being violated, no PPE, just nothing. She about to get him fired up
and
off
Orlando's
his job.
Like, don't worry, boss. She's with me,
bro. What? Okay, now, if you know what scene this movie is from, tell us. I'm gonna give you 2 seconds. 1 and 2. Put it in the comments.
Pause.
Okay, now here's what it is. It is actually the last scene from An Officer and a Gentleman with Deborah Winger and none other than Richard Gere. Okay, if you don't know who Richard Gere is, he's the guy from
The Longest Yard, a film that I was
Julia Roberts movie.
Oh, I don't know Julia Roberts movie.
Pretty Woman.
Oh, okay,
Pretty Woman. That's what y'all really gonna know. He was the man in Pretty Woman. Okay, but anyway, and the end. He goes to the factory where she works to get her out the factory because he went to officer candidate school and he didn't finish, and he decided, I need this in my life. So she's back at the factory working, and this is the end scene of that movie. And he even picks her up and everything, and the exact same thing ensues in here. So, she went running his job and screaming, and she's like, I gave it all up. I just want you. And then she's like, ask me again. I love you. Ask me again. Okay, let me tell you something. If you fooling around with the wrong type of man, I won't say the wrong type, but a certain type of man, when he didn't ask you, he didn't ask you. Ain't no break my heart, run on off, and then come back talking about ask me again. I felt like that was kind of lame, and I hated that aspect of this movie. But he's like, well, how you know you love me? And she's like, because I carry you in my spirit, and I pray for you more than I pray for myself. And, and then she goes through this whole thing, and then he asks again, and of course she says, yes, it's happily ever after, and he carries her out.
Yeah.
Now, if you really want extra points, what song is playing at the end of Officer and a Gentleman when they walk out at the end of that movie? That's going to get you some extra points if you know that. I'm going to tell y'all right now, though, because I know a lot of y'all don't know that.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Up Where We Belong. That was a huge hit in the 1980s. And it was redone, I think, by BB and CeCe Winans in a gospel version later in the 90s.
So if you like all of these film references and stuff we give you, go ahead and subscribe. You might as well, because you probably ain't getting this in other places.
You're not going to get it nowhere else. But so overall, what did you think of the film as we wind down?
It was bad. It was worse than I thought it was. I thought it was one of the better Tyler Perry movies, just from pure memory, right? But it's way too long. Like, a lot of this stuff.
That's what I was going to say.
Why are these scenes in here and why are they taking so long?
I feel like it's always hard when you have to try to balance the craziness with the Medea stuff.
In the middle of the film, they start doing the electric slide.
But that's my point. It's
like,
just
what?
that, like, I think that there's a lot that could hit the cutting room floor that if we gonna go all the way and the film just gonna be wild as hell, let the film be wild as hell. Let's not even break it up with all the Medea stuff. And then it could be a solid hour and a half. And then I could just see all the highlights of the foolishness that goes on in the movie and be done. I already know what it is. Yeah. It's not, the lengthiness of it is not changing. I'm not like, this is Oscar worthy now, just because it's longer.
I don't need Cicely Tyson to spew this stuff for 5 minutes. Just say, some people ain't gonna like you, whatever the gist of your monologue is.
But I will have to, but in spite of all that, I still go, and y'all know, a lot of y'all fight me over this with the Tyler Perry stuff, but I still feel like it's a Tyler Perry thing, and I already know what I'm getting into, and so I won't have the same complaint about everything.
If Helen leaves Charles and then comes back, you're gonna be like, well, she know what she getting into. It's still a bad relationship. It don't make the relationship better.
I'm not saying it makes it good. What I'm saying is, I know how this go. I know how this plays out, and
it
whatever.
Still might be torturous.
It will, and it is, right. And you always know when it's torturous, because there's a point in the film where I start looking at, like, I pick up the remote to pull down and see how long is left in the film, and I'm like, how much is left? Because it's the. And then
it just I take notes during these films too, and then I just stop taking as much copious notes. It's like, bro, it's dragging this stuff on.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I would just say, like, in the Tyler Perry universe, obvious edits could have made it better.
Yeah. But if you just like summarize the story without the details and stuff, you could come up with a good summary of what the movie is, right? Oh, this woman is with her husband who is basically treating her bad and cheating with the woman at work, and he got, you know what I'm saying? If you just describe it like that. But then it's when you throw in all the details and all the extra stuff.
Well, and it is the dialogue. It is how cold Charles is. That, like, sometimes there's the part where the audience wants him to, wants her to get her lick back. Is she going to take her lick back or not? But all in all, I mean, it was all right. Now, I am looking forward to the play, because I want to see how that was different, how I enjoy it more or less, because of course I've seen the movie, and with all of these, I've seen the movie first. Like, let's just be clear. And then, but this movie I hadn't seen in a long, and I said that I hadn't seen it. I take that back, but it's been a few years since I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen it at least once since it came out, but that was a while ago. And this was kind of like new to me. I generally knew what happened, but
And we have the play. I haven't watched it. I did mention something that Tyler Perry said, because I was going through, some of the scenes have commentary, and I was just going through to see what he had to say
about it. Yeah. Well, okay. So go to the comments, because we're going to cover the play, and let us know if you want us to cover the play, and anything more about that, I think we should. I really enjoyed covering
If we get enough
play.
comments about the play, then we'll cover it. If not, we just gonna move on.
All right.
Yep. So if you made it this far, type Flintstones in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now. And visit axiom.app, where you'll find all of our recent videos in one place from all of our channels, because there's more than just this one. And you'll be able to get links to them so you can watch them here on YouTube.